welcome to the Killtocraft podcast. I am Vanessa, your host, and today is episode 37, and it is Saturday and it's really early in the morning. So disclaimer, if I say anything stupid, that is why, because I'm not fully awake. I am still drinking my coffee that I have in my Little Ponies mug. I love this mug. The only reason it's not the only reason I use this mug. You can tell why I use it. Look at it. But it fits perfectly under my Dolce Gusto coffee machine. And it's just the right size. So, how are you all? I hope you're all keeping well. I was going to podcast last weekend and didn't feel very in the mood, weren't feeling very energetic, and decided that it wasn't the day to podcast. Instead, because I got everything out, I decided to do a little live showing to show my face and say hello and share some of the things that I've been working on, which was really nice and different. So I hope any of you who watched that really enjoyed it. But today I am going to have I'm going to go through some administrative things to start with, and then I'm going to go into my finished objects, my works in progress, a bit of sewing, and then sharing things that I have either received or bought myself. And I'm also going to share a book that I'm reading. I've only just really started it, but it's awesome, and I know plenty of you have been picking it up and reading it yourself. Anyway, I'll get into the administrative section of the podcast. But before I do that, you can find me on Instagram as Killtocraft, and you can find me on Ravelry as Killtocraft 2. Just Killtocraft, not Killtocraft 2. It's early, guys, it's early. Anyway, you can find me as Killtocraft on Instagram and Ravelry, and you can find the Killtocraft podcast group also on Ravelry, and my blog, which is www.killtocraftpodcast.com, which is where I keep show notes, and I also keep show notes on the Ravelry group. So please do go over and take a look. Put quite a bit of hard work into them, as I know a lot of podcasters do, and usually I do check the show notes of podcasts I've watched because I know how much hard work goes into them. Oh, it is really hard work, and I don't know why I do them, because to be honest, I keep my project pages quite up to date, and you could really look there. Anyway, grumbling and mumbling. So this morning I have some administrative to go through. Basically, we have a couple of knit-alongs going on. We have one going on, but we will have two soon. We have finished the Shorty Socks Carl, which I will be going through the prize winners in just a second. And we have actually got the KTC brioche knit-along going on in the Ravelry group, and that is going on until the 15th of November, if I'm correct, and come over and join. Bring your lovely yarn and patterns over and come in and join us. It's not a whips allowed knit along, but only because there is 3 months total to this knit along, and we're wanting larger projects, so I kind of figured a larger project like a shawl or a jumper or a cardigan, but obviously 3 months is plenty of time to knit yourself something that's that large, which is why I decided no whips allowed, just for this knit along. We have done the knit along previously 2 years ago, and it was my first Carl, and it was super successful and I really enjoyed it. Strangely enough though, I have not casted on my brioche project yet, but I will be doing, don't worry. I've got other focuses that I'm trying to get done, and until then I'm not casting on. I can't have all the cast-ons. not with what I'm working on. I just really need it off of the needles and wearable. So anyway, so we have a brioche cal going on, and soon on the 15th of September we will also be rehashing the awesome knit along that me and Twee had last year, last autumn. It was the Harvest Hat Along. So we have decided to redo it again for this year, and we're super excited, and I have like a bundle on my Ravelry page that is full of my favourite hats, and every time I knit one I put when I knit it, so like 2015 made, and I've still got tons of those to get through, so the hats just keep piling up, guys, and I love hats. I have tons of hats, obviously with short hair as well. Hats come in very much handy to wear through the winter months, but I just love them. They're cozy, they're comfortable, we get a bit of a chill at work, so it's nice to keep my head warm. So I wear hats a lot through the winter. So we are doing the Harvest Hat Along, which is so you can harvest all of your hats before the winter months. So that is starting 15th of September through to 15th of November. It's going to be a 2-month knit along, no whips allowed, and the same as last time, each adult hat equals 1 entry, but 2 child's hats can equal 1 entry. It just seemed fair, and that's how we did it last year. It worked really well, and it meant that you could knit baby hats as well then, as well as adult hats. And yeah, I hope you come and join us and cast on all your winter hats for your head. Come on and join in. Then next thing is the giveaways for the Shorty Socks Cal. We had so many entries and so many lovely entries, and I know plenty of you knitted multiple pairs of socks, and they are beautiful, and thank you for joining in. I really sucked ass at this knit along. I knitted 1 pair of Shorty socks, which were my hand spun shorties, and I did the Spree socks by Kemperay, which was a lovely pattern, and I really enjoyed knitting those, but I only knit 1 pair. So that really wasn't that great. I don't think my hat was fully in it in the end, unfortunately. I'd got so many other projects just on my needles that I really wanted to work on and get through, and so the Shorty Socks Cal got kind of pushed to the back of my mind a little bit. But thank you so much for joining in. That was really lovely of you all, and you made some beautiful socks, and it was really successful, so thank you for partaking. But onto the giveaways, prize winners. So I'll put my coffee down and I will bring my laptop into play because I have the winners written down on there, and I'm not that good at remembering this morning. It's been a long time since I did a morning podcast. And my computer is not working with me, so bear with me 1 second. Oh, it's turned off. Here we go. Right. Well, hey, I no longer look a fool. So, for the first prize, keep popping open, we have this lovely sock set that was donated to us by Debbie at Fondant Fibre, and it has a little stitch marker. And I also threw in one of Debbie's old versions of her soap, sock soap, so I hope that that's still in good use. If it's not, I'm sorry. It is over a year old, but I'm sure it should be fine. Mine's still okay. This is to the Lighthouse colourway, and it's a superwash BFL and nylon blend. And there's a lovely sparkly sock, heels and toes, mini skein. And this is a 4-ply fingering weight, 425 metres, and this lovely prize goes to Phoenix Fire 66, and she made some lovely socks. I think she made multiple pairs as well, so well done, Phoenix Fire. If you could get in touch with me on Ravelry, PM me with your shipping details, I will get this lovely sock set out to you. I love this colourway. I might have to get some for myself. I wonder if Debs does any more. I really love this. So congratulations, because it's such a beautiful prize. The next winner won this gorgeous project bag from Wild Handmade. This is Leah of the All You Knit Is Love podcast. And Leah has a wonderful Etsy shop called Wild Handmade where she makes these beautiful little bags. This is one of her sock size bags. I believe she's also making or planning to make some different size or different style bags. But this is her sock size, which I have recently purchased myself and love it. It fits in my bag really well. And my socks go in it really nicely. So this wonderful prize also has a vanilla rose tea, which I left in there. I'm not going to take your prizes away from you. And this lovely project bag goes to Vingil47. So congratulations! Please do get in touch with your shipping details and I will get this out to you as soon as possible. And the next prize for the Shorty Socks Cal, you're probably thinking there shouldn't be any more prizes. However, through the Shorty Socks Cal, I did say that through the chatter thread I would draw a winner for the lovely Luli sock collection, which I shared with you quite a few episodes ago in a little review. I didn't do that as a surprise through the knit along, but I did save that until the end. I decided it was a bit more fair to do it at the end because people who had participated in the chat thread will have done. And the prize winner for the socks collection was NAF Knitting 91. So congratulations! It's always nice to win prizes. So I will get in touch with Luli, Ollie, and give her your Ravelry name, and that sock collection will be gifted to you as soon as possible. So thank you everybody for joining in. That was really wonderful. And of course, if you want to join in further, you could join in our new and prospective knit-alongs, the Brioche Cal and the Harvest Hat-along. So the next giveaway I have to announce is Vicky of the Sweet Leaps podcast, but I think she changed her name to Vicky Davista Designs, possibly, on the YouTubes. She has kindly gifted us a copy of her So Close shawl, which is a large triangular shawl. I will try and pop in a picture here for you. This shawl is a beautiful large design consisting of 3.5 skeins, I believe, of 3 colours. I think that's right. The design is mainly worked up in garter stitch and lace, so it's a relatively simple design and pattern, and the shawl is mega big, but it's beautiful and drapey and it looks absolutely gorgeous. So the pattern is basically, because it's so simple, it's just written instructions. It's built up, like I said, of garter stitch and lace sections, and it has a really cute picot bind off edging, which I know they take a while to do, guys, but they look stunning when you do them and put the effort in. You can watch as well Vicky's actual YouTube channel, which I will link it into the show notes. She has a lovely video which she shares the shawl. I think it's about a 15-minute video where she shares it, talks you through the design elements, and tells you the essentials that you need to know about the shawl, how long it took her to knit the shawl, all of these sort of things. So I will link that into the actual show notes because it's essential for you. And she has kindly gifted us a copy of this shawl. So thank you so much, Vicky. That is so kind of you. Vicky is a lovely podcast viewer and she is amazing and she has a lovely podcast herself. And I couldn't be more grateful that she thought of me. So thank you very much. So I will pop in a giveaway thread to the Ravelry group for this prize. Please follow the prompt and I will leave it a couple of weeks before I draw the giveaway. So, next thing on the agenda is, what am I wearing? I'm wearing my So Faded, God, my voice went a bit crackly there. I'm wearing my So Faded sweater, which, if you haven't seen, it looks like that. I love this sweater. I made it with a dipped hem at the back. And I love it. The only thing with it is, and I don't know if you'll be able to see, but it is pilling like a crazy thing. And I shouldn't, it's not too bad. Actually, there's areas where it is worse than others, I have to say. But I wear the crap out of this. Oh, I never thought, is crap a swear word? Sorry. I'll edit that out somehow, maybe. Or disclaimer it. Anyway, I absolutely love this sweater. It is one of my favourites, but I will have to invest in some sort of a pilling machine because they're everywhere. I don't know. There's some big ones on the body of the sweater from where I've had my bag and my coat on and things like that, or my jackets. They're literally everywhere on the sides of my sweater. So I will be possibly investing in some form of awesome pilling machine in the future, because I can't deal with that. I have some sweaters that are wool blends, but they've never pilled on me. But like sweaters that I've done with like a superwash merino nylon blend, they pill like mad. And I'm sure it's the merino because merino is very soft, and I still love merino. Let it pill. Anyway, I will now go into the finished objects that I have completed fairly recently. And the first one is my flyaway twist shawl, which looks amazing. So this is a shawl that I knitted out of some Knit Cosmic Strings yarn, which I won at the beginning of the year in a I'm not at Edinburgh kind of giveaway on Instagram. And I won the two skeins, both of these. This was the Tranquility colourway and this is the Aubergine colourway. One of them was their sock base and one of them was just their merino base. I can't remember which way around it was, but it's amazing. And I wanted to use the colours in a two-colour shawl because they go together so well. And obviously because it's brioche, it's reversible, so this is the other side of the shawl, and it is massive. It's actually pretty damn big, if you can see that. So the Flyaway Twist shawl is by Vera Valimaki. This shawl is in the Interpretations 4 book, I believe. More recent one, the one that came out this year. I think it's the 4th one. Which I had in my stash, and I love it. It's gorgeous. It knits up really nicely, and it's one of my favourite shawls now because of how dark the colourways are. I like to wear burgundies, greys, blacks, khakis even, khaki colours, as everyday items because they get more wear for some reason than my bright coloured things. And this, even though it has the variegation, it's a very beautiful, not so bold, but still very pretty variegation, and it's so wearable. I wear this, I've worn this already quite a lot of times. So I just wrap them, I wear the shawl with it just wrapped round, and I've been tying the ends and just shoving it up there, hiding it away, like so. And it's just nice. I love it. So again, this is by Vera Valimaki. and it only took, I think, 1.5 skeins. I have about 46 grams of the, I think it's the main variegated colour left, I think, or I might be wrong. But either way, I think it's in my show notes which one I had left. Not show notes, my project page. But I did only use about 1.5 of the skeins, of the 2 skeins. But it's beautiful. I really love this shawl. And it is really nice knit. It's simple if you're wanting to start a brioche project, say for the brioche knit along. I would say that it's a perfect beginner shawl to try, because the garter stitch is really simple, which you start with, and then you go into the brioche, and then it's garter stitch short rows. So there isn't a lot you do need to know for the shawl. I say if you've done garter stitch before and you've done short rows before and you're just wanting to get, you know, dip your feet into the brioche land, this is a really good project for that. And it's really easily explained. The pattern is very simple to follow. So yeah, well worth trying out. The next finished object that I have off of my needles, but I have worn. So another disclaimer, these have been worn. So these are my flamingo leg socks. The yarn was gifted to me at Pomfest by Leah of the Wild Handmade podcast, Wild Handmade Shop and the All You Knit Is Love podcast. So thank you so much, Leah. This is a 50-gram skein that she gifted me because she knew that I had been wanting to try the flamingo legs colourway, which was so sweet of you. And so I picked up a skein of the Knit Picks Stroll Fingering in the black colourway for the heels, toes and the cast offs, because I thought that would be a smart finishing touch, and I absolutely love them. Love, love, love. I have 2, obviously. So this, I just did my standard 60 stitch leg and foot. I put in a short row heel, which I don't really follow a pattern for anymore because it's so simple. It's not even the Fishley's Kiss heel, it is just a short row heel that I just generally know how to do now, and I like that. The only problem is I don't feel like it's deep enough, the heel section. I'm gonna work on making one that's a bit deeper, maybe that goes into a few more stitches to make it deeper, because it would fit better on my heel, I think, instead of riding down. Anyway, I did a twisted 1x1 twisted rib for the cuff, and yeah, it's just a simple basic sock, but I love them and I wear them. I've worn them quite a few times already. I think that because the wool in socks, you don't need to wash them as much as normal socks. They don't get as smelly, they're a bit more odour proof, and they just last better in general. Anyway, the sock yarn is by Stranded Dye Works from Amy, and if you've never tried any of Amy's yarn, I would suggest you do, because it is beautifully dyed. It's gorgeous. I do want some more of her colourways, and I'm hoping to treat myself at Nottingham Yarn Expo later on this year, so I'm looking forward to that. So that's my flamingo legs socks. So next finished object, I have finished really recently and had some issues with them. So I finished my thigh high leg socks. The other one is still in my project bag because I will be doing something, I will be modifying them, but they are both casted off. Basically I did a 1x1 rib at the top, and I just did a normal cast off, but it was still quite tight. Now I dropped down a needle size from doing the brioche, so there is a needle size change. But then the cast off itself still wasn't elastic enough, and I hate the Jenny's Surprisingly Stretchy bind off, how it waves and looks all horrible and not neat. And when I did that, it still wasn't giving. It wasn't elastic like the rest of it was elastic. So it was still feeling tight when I sat down on the upper portion of my leg. So I decided that surely there's another way, and I came across another knitting pattern. I think it was Fiona Alice's. In a Take Heart book, she has some leggings, leg warmers, that have used, when I looked in the instruction, have used knitter's elastic. And I was like, huh, I did not know knitter's elastic was a thing. It is super thin, really stretchy, elastic, like really thin, and it's see-through, invisible, clear. Like, you can't tell that it's in there, can you? That's how good it is. The only thing is I wouldn't say it's got an amazing amount of bounce back. So I am thinking I might do this rib again on a smaller needle again. I think I did this on a 2.5. I might do it on a 2.25, just to bring it in a little bit more. What you will not believe is the cast off is Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind off, but I've done it with the elastic, so it doesn't wave. How amazing is that? So guys, if you want to do that cast off, maybe do it with some knitter's elastic. It doesn't make it do the wavy, crazy horribleness, and it is still super stretchy. So I did the 1x1 rib because I wanted to make it so that the brioche wasn't as stretchy, because it's super stretchy, look at it, and the 1x1 rib pulls in a little bit more than the brioche does. So that's why I've done that, to keep it on my leg a little bit better. You can feel the elastic in there, it does do its job, and the only reason I want to go down a needle size is because when I'm putting it onto my leg, this does give quite a lot, but it takes a little while for it to gain back its, to pull back its bounce, like to go back in. And although I'm going to be probably wearing these with tights and leggings and not on their own, I want to make sure that they're not going to be dropping down straight away, obviously. So I think I might pull these back again yet, but I might try it on the smaller needle size, knitting the rib with the knitter's elastic and testing those first. If they work, then I will redo this one. Common sense. The one thing that I would say about knitter's elastic is, it is weird. I have a couple of tips. So I first did the rib of this on the 2.25 with the yarn, and I tensioned them together at the same time. Don't do that, doesn't work. The knitter's elastic doesn't have enough tension, it just sits how it sits with the wool. There's no bouncing involved. There's no stretching and bouncing, it just sits with the stitches you've created, and it doesn't really do much. What I did is I ended up redoing it again, and every few stitches, it takes a little while, I have to say, I pull the knitter's elastic to tension it tighter and grab the wool and knit it in. So you're basically stretching out, you're putting tension into the elastic more than you are your knitting thread, your knitting yarn. Which means you can't tension them really at the same time, but it does work. It does work. So my recommendation is, if you're going to do the knitting elastic, is you can try it first without tensioning, just to get an idea of how your fabric feels and how it's working, and then, like I did, slightly add some tension into the knitter's elastic as you go. So I think I stopped maybe about every 7 stitches, stretched it a little bit more, picked up the yarn, and then knitted the next few stitches, and so on all the way through the cuff. And it is a slower process, I think I did half of the rib one evening and the other half the next evening. It only took about an hour or so, but it just meant that I wasn't slogging through it and getting fed up. But I would say all in all it is a great thing to use for knee-high socks. I think it's quite usable. I have spent a lot of time trying to get these knee-high socks to be right and wearable because I've never made knee-highs before. I would say if you are making knee-high socks, to go into them expecting that you're going to have to make and pull back and make alterations to them, because everybody's legs are different, and especially when you don't, no pattern can write up a pattern for your calf and your knee and your thigh area and be 100% correct. I've altered these a few times. I started these at the beginning of the year. They haven't taken me that long. I've been picking them up and putting them down as necessary when I've done alterations, because otherwise I think I'd have hated working on them. But I'm nearly there and I'm nearly finished. So that's why I've classed them as a finished object, because there's only the top little band that I need to work upon. And yeah, I'm done. So that's my thigh-high, my brioche thigh-high socks by Lavanya Petrosella. And they are beautiful, and the yarn is Ching Fibre in her super soft cashmere nylon merino blend, and I love them. So I think that's it for finished objects. Next is whips, which I have a couple of. I'm going to share with you first my lovely Sunset Highway sweater, which I am keeping in my fab pink hazel bag, project bag, which I got a I got at Pomfest, and I love this project bag. It's really hard wearing, it's really beautiful made, really large size. I got the 44-pound version project bag, which is one of her large sweater size, because I like large bags. It's got a zipper and a beautiful lining, and you can see you can carry a ton in this project bag, an absolute mass of stuff. I love this project bag because, one, it has this amazing pink cord which looks really cute, and two, it has a really great handle which I sometimes carry around on my wrist to work. So it's like a little bag. And three, it not only can hold a couple of small projects, but it can hold my sweaters, which I love at the minute knitting sweaters. I am on a real sweater kick, guys. Real sweater kick. It's good. It's a nice feeling. I'm enjoying it. So, my Sunset Highway sweater. You've not seen this yet. I bought the yarn at Pomfest. So, I have cast it on. It's hard to tell because it's on the needles, but I will just lay out a section for you so you can see it a bit better. So this is my Sunset Highway sweater. It's looking awesome and I'm super impressed by it, and I can't wait to be wearing it. The grey is a lovely shade from Amy of the Stranded Dye Works, and this is her Highway Code colourway. This grey is not the initial grey I was going to use. The grey that I was going to use was the Shiner colourway. You can see that one is way darker than the other. This is more of a charcoal grey. This is more of a lavender grey. The only problem and why I changed was because the other two colours went missing in the lavender grey, and it didn't really work as well as I'd hoped it would when I did a sample. In fact, I think I might have my sample. I will show you, because I think it's in here. If you're gonna swatch, at least swatch a little bit to test how your colourways are working. So this is my first swatch, and you can see what I mean. You can't really see that blue very well. It disappears. It doesn't look very fabulous. It doesn't stand out very much. It's gonna go missing when on. That's because the contrasts of the colours were very similar. You can take a picture of your colourways in black and white and you can see how different they are. And then this is the other one, the other little sample that I did, just to check that the colours were working right, not for anything else. But as you can see, it did. Swatching is like a genius. So you can see the amazing difference it makes. So I decided to change my colour, and I have now lost a stitch. There we go. And I am now super happy with how it's coming out. So my Sunset Highway sweater, the blue at the top, which I've already worked, is a yarn by the Fine Fish Yarns, which is Terry, and it is her Narwhal colourway, this blue. I have just started adding in this lovely blue, and this is the Vesper, this is Vesper something, or Vesper, and this is by La Bien Aimée, which is what I got at Pomfest because I really wanted to try some of the yarn. I decided that this sweater was a perfect way to try a few people's yarns because singles you can get at pretty much most stands. The only thing I am concerned about with this sweater is the fact that it's made out of singles. Now I know a lot of sweaters, there is a lot of sweaters out there that are made with singles yarn, but I am kind of very aware that this is going to pill and it's going to wear out fairly quickly, and that's fine, that's fine. I don't mind that too much. Mainly because I can make another one, and I think if I do make another one next time I will use a woolly wool so it lasts. But for now I'm just enjoying working with the yarns that I bought and the brands that I got, and I love it. It's coming out amazing and I can't wait to be wearing it. It hasn't got a lot of love fairly recently, but that's only because I am busy on another sweater. I've been doing the colour work on this with the strands, and I am fairly impressed with how well my colour work has come since doing my hat project that I did last year, because it's looking way better than it did. Like, none of those stitches look tight or wrinkled. The only reason it's looking a bit wrinkled is because it's on a smaller knitting needle. But I think it's going to like block out fabulously, so I'm really excited to be wearing it. So yeah, that's my Sunset Highway sweater, which I'm hoping to be able to pick up a little bit more once I've got the projects that I'm working on currently off of my needles. So I will put my wool away. So they are really gorgeous. I'm really enjoying knitting with singles. It's the first time I've knitted with singles properly for a shawl or garment or anything really. I've got some singles, I've never worked with them. My next project is a beautiful pattern made by the lovely Jacqueline Salem of the Brooklyn Knit Folk. She has just started into her foyer into designing, if that's the right word. You know what I'm getting at. She has just started dipping her toes into designing, and I am really, way to go, Jacqueline, because it's a really nice feeling and I'm very proud of you. You're doing so well. I love Jacqueline's podcast, so if you haven't seen that, that's the Brooklyn Knit Folk. I'm sure that most of you have seen the Brooklyn Knit Folk podcast, and if you haven't, what are you doing? Anyway, she started designing and she brought out her first pattern, and I decided that I really wanted to knit these. There was a couple of reasons as to why. One, the socks is cabled and it's gorgeous and it's got textures and I'm all about that. Two, the yarn that she actually used originally was Malabrigo sock yarn, and I knew I had some in my stash that had been in there for 6 whole years and was a souvenir skein I got from Paris and never had intentions or a project for, so finally I've been able to use this skein. And 3, I just loved how elegant and beautiful the pattern is. So this is the Clark socks. It's showing up really quite dark on here, but a lot of these tones down here are like burgundies and reds, and then these are green. And you can see, a bit more like that, but not as washed out. But you can see that it's got the pearled details on the sides of this beautiful, there we go, of this beautiful cable. And it is lovely. It's got a 2x2 rib cuff, and yeah, it's got a beautiful detail on the back with another rope cable that runs down the back of the leg, and you can do the leg as long as you want. I think I did about 8 repeats on mine, and I've just started the heel on my first one. So I decided to get the legs both done at the same point and then start the heels and turn the heels, and I can do the legs then up until the toes at the same point, which is kind of how I work socks. I like to work them kind of together so that they're worked in the same manner. But yeah, I really love them. I think they're gorgeous. Congratulations, Jacqueline, because this pattern is beautifully written. I'm really enjoying it. It's a very memorizable design. After the first couple of repeats, you get into how the pattern works, and so you really don't need any instruction. It's really intuitive and easy to follow, and it is just wonderful. I haven't even taken the pattern with me in my project bag to work because I haven't had to. That's how intuitive it is. If you're a regular sock knitter and cable knitter, you will find these very intuitive and easy to get along with, and just really effective. Look how beautiful those cables are. So congratulations, Jacqueline. These are amazing and I love them, and I can't wait to wear them this autumn because they are definitely autumn socks with the colour and everything. They're beautiful. Jacqueline based these socks around the Brooklyn itself, I think. She said that it was based around one of the streets. She called them Clark socks. I think that's what it said. Don't quote me on that. But her styling as well for the photographs and everything were just spot on. And Julie of Sweet Sparrow Knits and Yarns did the photography for them, and they are beautiful photographs, which is another reason why it swayed me into buying the pattern, because the photographs were blooming lovely and really nicely done. But I absolutely love knitting socks and needed some new ones on the needles, so I casted those on ASAP, pretty much straight away as the pattern came out. I bought it, and when I got home I wound the yarn, and I don't do that very often. Sometimes I wait a few days before I actually cast on something when it's new out. My throat is a little bit getting dry. I'm going to have a sip of my coffee before it goes fully cold. Ooh, that's nice. And we are already into 44 minutes of podcast. So the next thing I'm working on is another sweater. This is my Quadrillion sweater. When I shared this last Saturday, I had more of this on the needles than I do today. I'd already had a good 3 days of working on the sleeve of this sweater. I then obviously had, up until Wednesday, the following Wednesday, I knitted the remainder of that sleeve and found out that it looked terribly big and wrong. The photograph shows a batwing sleeve, but the lower portion of the sleeve, so this portion, is a bit slimmer. Kind of like this is, so slimmer. And it showed that the batwing, you know, kind of went more to the elbowy, just past the elbow. The batwing that was on the third size went all the way to my wrist, and it looked humongously horrible. It made me look like one of those sugar squirrels that fly through the air, through the trees, and I'm not a sugar squirrel. So I pulled them out and I started the sleeves again. I did post about this on Instagram, and I found a fix that was just a quick fix that meant that I didn't have to start fiddling around with numbers, and that was to check the first size and how the first size worked. And the first size was perfectly fine and worked to how the image looked, so I decided that I would sew a little bit of the sleeve, the side seam up, so that the armhole matched the armhole of the first size, and I am knitting the first sized batwing sleeve, which looks much more neater and nicer and not as big. The original sleeve had an extra 20 stitches in there, so it was quite a bigger sleeve, and it didn't look as great, I have to say, especially since, you know, that's where it's going to be on my arm, and it was way bigger, so it looked like I just had a huge bingo wing flying around. It wasn't a good look. So I decided to use the first size sleeve, which is working out a lot better. There's less stitches in it and I'm happier. I could have worked the larger sized, the third size that I was working on. I could have done that sleeve at the recommended stitch count and just decreased at a different rate. However, I just wanted to knit, and I think that that sleeve in general was slightly more oversized. I am a 38 bust, but my arms are not huge. I have slim arms, so when it's batwing anyway, there's room in that top half to fit my arm. But for the third size it seemed really excessively big. For there to be 20 stitches between the first and the third size, it was a lot, and from the first size to the third size in a batwing, your arm doesn't need to change that much. I think on bigger sizes, if you are a larger lady, then yes, that would be worth doing. But for my size, I didn't think it was very necessary because it's still in those first few smaller sizes. That your arms don't really change that much from a 32 to a 38, really, not massively. And a batwing still has that allowance, so that room allowance. So I decided to go with the first size anyway, and that's what I'm knitting. The only thing is, it took me like a good week to knit the majority of that sleeve, and although there's 20 less stitches in my sleeve at the minute, that does still mean that I've got possibly another week of knitting to go, which is slightly disappointing. But if it means that it'll be ready for Yarndale, please be ready for Yarndale. I so want to wear this for Yarndale. Then I'll be happy. And that's why I've been trudging along on this and not working on much other projects, because by God, I want to wear this for Yarndale. I bought the yarn last year at Yarndale as a treat. That week wasn't a very good week for me. After finding out about my mum having breast cancer, that was a very tough week. So I trekked myself quite a bit that weekend, and my lovely knitting friends really cheered me up that weekend. I had the best weekend and the biggest wool show come down that you could imagine. But I bought this yarn, which is John Arbon's Viola yarn in the North Sea colourway, and this is really representative of the colourway. It's a really dark, nice blue. It'll go great with jeans. I don't know why when I move it away from me it blows out, but anyway, this is the Quadrillion sweater. I just throw these out of the way. This is my Quadrillion sweater. It's by Megan Fernandez, and it's from the autumn issue 5 or 6 of Pom Pom magazine, and it's an oversized, slightly cropped, not massively cropped, I wouldn't say, sweater with a little bit of back wing sleeve. A lot of people have modified the sleeves for this, which made it highly difficult to tell if there was a bit of a mistake in the pattern or whether it's something that was overlooked in the pattern, the difference between the first and the third size. A lot of people have modified the sleeves to be really slim sleeves all the way down, so they obviously sewed up the armhole a little bit more and just did a straight sleeve. But I want it to look slightly like the picture, so I want the back wingy, a bit of the back wingness. And it's an awesome sweater. I love wearing it. I've tried it on multiple times already because, by God, I want to be able to wear it, and it's getting a bit autumnal outside, which means I can soon. This sweater is going to be amazing when I'm at work and I'm cold and I can just throw it on, and it is going to be so cozy. So cozy. This is going to be my favourite sweater of the winter. I can tell already. It's been worth the year of slogging and trugging along with it, because it's amazing. Oh, and I forgot to share this with you. I have a little progress keeper that is helping me keep my progress, and it's a little Bimo which I bought from the Sugar Tots Etsy store. I think her name is Frosted Betty's on Instagram. Please check her out because she does some amazing polymer clay stitch markers, and I recently bought another one from her that is on its way, and it's a Pusheen bat for Halloween. I love Pusheen, but look at him. I love Adventure Time, and I couldn't resist a little smiley happy Bimo for all my knitting, and he really cheers me up every time I see him. So that's my progress keeper, and I'm knitting the sleeve itself actually on some interchangeable Knit Pro carbons. Oh no, these are fixed actually. Yes, they're fixed. I bought these from my local yarn shop because I was in a 4.5 emergency. My highway sweater has my Dreams interchangeable 4.5s on there, and I didn't really want to have to take them off because I figured if at any point I really do want to just quickly pick up a project and knit on it, a different one, I really just want the needles to be on there. So I just picked up some new 4.5s, but the ones that they had in the Symphony Wood ones were a really long cable, and I didn't want a huge cable. I bought the carbons. However, a lot of people do mention about the joins being bad, and they can be. They can have joins here that bump your stitches over, and it's really hard to push them through. I checked these when I was buying them, so I sometimes find the best way to do that is to turn them around a bit in the packet and just run your finger over, and you'll be able to tell whether it's a bit smooth or a bit bumpy. Or sometimes be cheeky enough to open the packet and have a look, because I've done that before. And yeah, these weren't. They were perfectly fine. There's no real massive ridge, so I bought them. So yeah, that's another tip. When you're buying, if you're buying carbons, please do, but check the tip ridge. I think that's all my knitting. This podcast is going to be super long and I am sorry. I might share with some of my acquisitions maybe another time. However, I have been doing some sewing. Last night I managed to spare a little bit of time, a good few hours, to carry on working on my Simplicity 1369 skirt. This is a lovely yoked skirt which has a deep yoked band and pockets. I bought this skirt because it looked very similar to the skirt that I am wearing today, and this also has pockets, a deep yoked band, and I love it. I love wearing it. I now have a black and a brown one, and I wanted a handmade one, and I'm making one that is this length, the longer version. And I cut out the fabric pieces a while ago and sewed up the back seam, and sewed on the pockets, and didn't get much further because I've had quite a few busy weekends. I've had problems with our shower and the trip switch on that, so one weekend I was waiting in for the electrician, so I didn't get much done then, which was actually a couple of weekends ago when I was meant to podcast. Then we went away to the seaside. Last weekend I actually was going to podcast but weren't feeling quite up to it or in the mood, and I went out instead with my mum. But yesterday I decided, rather than sit down and slog away on my sweater all evening doing my sleeve and just being bored of doing double moss stitch, I would start sewing my skirt. So this fabric I bought from a fabric discount store that we have in my local town, where they have bolts of fabric that are kind of discounted or on sale for some reason. There's never usually anything wrong with them, and if they are, they usually cut that bit out, so they don't give you the bit that has the marks on it, or they give you that section for nothing and then take the rest of the measurement that you're wanting. I saw this amazing, it's like a tie-dyed batik-y cotton. I don't know if you can see it, but it has like splashes of that's quite good. It's got like pinks and corals in like splashes and waves of patterning. It's supposed to be like a tie-dye batik-y effect. It's really pretty and I love it, and I decided that this was perfect for my skirt. So this is it so far. I have installed pockets into the skirt, so that's where they are, and on the other side I've lined the pockets. This is a very drapey kind of lightweight cotton, as you can see the light straight through it. It's fairly lightweight, so I interfaced the pockets just to give them a bit more of a sturdy quality, so that I could put my phone in and it not be too heavy and it wouldn't ruin the stitching or be too heavy for the pocket in general, so it didn't make it go out of shape. And this is the first time I have ever done gathers, which I'm really quite impressed with. I think I've done quite good. The only thing is I've gone slightly out, like here. I've gone slightly out on the curve of my yoke, where it was hard to see because I got my pocket in. It was hard to see where the line, the stitching was that I'd done for my gather, when it's covered up by a pocket. But there's nothing I could do about that, so it kind of veered off a little bit at one point. In fact, if I pull that open a little bit more, you can see the stitching slightly, but it's not that noticeable. So I didn't go over it again because I'd actually unpicked this section, redid it, and it's still kind of there a little bit, so it's either there, here or there. But this is my yoke skirt, and I'm really happy with it. It's coming out lovely, and if all is well and it works out right and it looks good, I will be wearing this at Skipton Yarndale with my Quadrillion, because I think I can pass this blue off with this pink. I think. And to be honest, even if it doesn't, I probably will, because I sometimes clash my garments because I wear what I like to wear. But I absolutely love it. It's a beautiful pattern. It's really nicely explained. It's really beautiful. And all I have to do now is I'll be adding in the facing of the yoke, and my zipper and hemming. So yeah, I've looked through the instructions, and the facing of the yoke takes a little bit of time because I believe you've got to sew it on, sew up the edge. I think you have to also sew down the seam that's at the top of the yoke where you've done the seam to join it on. I think you have to sew that seam down to the fabric. Not sure, but I think that's what happens. I've had a look through. I think you have to like baste it, tack it together. So it might take a little while, but we'll see. Might be able to fudge it. I don't really like fudging my garments. I like to make them properly, but it is coming out really well. I'm super happy with it. And it's nearly there, so I'm going to do a bit more on that tonight, and hopefully it'll be ready to wear pretty darn soon. Then I'll share with you a couple of things that I picked up. I will share a lovely project bag that I won from Elise of the 2 Tips podcast. I don't know if you've ever seen Elise's podcast, but it's lovely. She's a Canadian podcaster, and she did recently a sweater knit along, and I joined in with my So Faded sweater. And I won a Hi Heart You project bag, which is a Canadian project bag maker, and I have seen so many people with these bags, especially my friend Lara of the Fawn Knits. She loves the Hi Heart You bags, and so right, because they're amazing. So I got this past week in the post, which I was super excited. This is my prize. It's machine washable cotton fabric made by hiheartyou.etsy.com. Go and check them out. They do patchwork bags as well. They're beautiful. But on the inside of this bag, it is fabulous. That's right, I have a crush on the lining. Look at this. How awesome is the lining of this project bag? It's like batik tie-dyed fabric that is amazing, and I absolutely love it. That was such a nice surprise, because obviously being a knitter and having project bags, you do open the bag and you go, ooh, I wonder what the lining is. It's like a little surprise. So I took a peek inside and I was like, holy cow, look at that. It's amazing. So this gorgeous project bag, it's kind of slightly got some wadding in. I do apologise, my memory ran out on my phone, so I've had to put those over onto my computer. So where was I? Oh, I was sharing my Hi Heart You bag, which is really lovely. It's made out of like a quilted wadding and cotton, and it's really nice. So I recommend that bag very highly. The next thing that I recently picked up, I noticed that at Yarndale, Martin's Lab are going to be there, and I've really wanted to get some yarn from Martin's Lab. I've seen their stuff on Instagram tons. Never, however, checked out their website, which is crazy. So Martin's Lab is based in Poland, I believe. The partner, the couple duo, I think is Justina Lorkowska, is it? And her partner have the hand-dyed yarn and fibre company Martin's Lab. They're going to be at Yarndale. But I really wanted to start a pair of socks that I've had in my sights and in my queue for a little while now. In fact, I've had this whole collection so far in my queue to knit, and nobody's really knit them yet, which I don't understand why, because the patterns are gorgeous. You can get them as a collection, which I think is about £25–26, which does seem a lot, but it's a 7 sock collection. You get them every 2 months, and I think there's an extra one at Christmas. And it's by Sunflower Knit, which is Ash Alberg, and I really want to cast on these, which are the Bellini socks, and it's a gorgeous textured twisted stitch cable pattern that runs down the sock on a background of reversed stocking stitch, and I think it's really effective. They're not really long socks, so they should be quite fairly quick, although I might do a deeper leg on mine. But I think they're absolutely beautiful, really nicely designed. I love the pattern. It's different but beautiful and really effective. And I've really wanted to find something, like the socks are called Bellini. I'm going to enter these also into the Brooklyn Knit Folk Hipster Cal, along with my Clark socks, which I also added into the Any Socks Cal, which has been going on. I think it's got another week maybe until it ends, and that's an Instagram cal, and I won something on that this week. They do a prize I think every week through the knit along, and I won some of their hand spun, so I'll be sharing that with you next time, which I'm really excited about. Anyway, I'm going to be entering these into the Brooklyn Knit Folk Hipster Cal. Is one of my patterns, and I really wanted some Bellini styled yarn. Bellini is a cocktail drink, and it's usually a peachy colour, and I came across this, which is like a light peach with speckles of pink and black, and I thought it was perfect. I love it. It's very furry yarn. I don't know if you can see that it's got a bit of a haze to it. And it's 100% superwash BFL, and BFL is really hard wearing for socks. I've had some BFL sock yarn before and they've lasted me really well, and this is 400 meters to the 100 grams, and it's the baby flamingo colorway. I'm all about the flamingo socks recently. But I think it's really special and pretty, and I love the bright pops of colour that are in this. It is me. So I'm going to be casting those on relatively soon. I'm really excited about that. I've also recently started going to a knit night, my local yarn shop, which is, it has quite a lot of commercial yarns, but it started venturing into some of the hand-dyed yarns. So we have some of the Knitting Goddess, we have some of the Fibre Spates yarn, which is kind of gone into a more commercial basis with wholesale. Fibre Spates, and it's got a couple of others as well. I think it's got, I can't think of her name, Shadow. She does hand-dyed yarn. I've shared it with you before. Anyway, they do have some now hand-dyed yarns. They have some lovely selection commercial sock yarns in there, and I started going to their local knit night sometimes on a Wednesday, and it's really good and everybody's so lovely, and I've been really looking forward to going. But the last time I went, I picked up the Knit Pro carbons for my sweater, and I had a little bit of pocket money left and came across this skein of Head Over Heels Stylecraft sock yarn. So it's like a bit of a rainbowy colour on a dark green background. This is not black, it's actually a really dark green. And as you can see, that's how it turns out. And I love this. I love, love, love. It kind of reminds me of rainbows, but it also kind of reminds me of Halloween. So Halloween is coming, if you didn't know. And I'm going to be casting this on. This is the Ben Nevis colourway and it is shade 3108. There you go, 3108. And it's a 75% superwash wool and 25% nylon, 400 metres approximately. And yeah, it's machine washable, dry flat, may dry clean, may tumble dry. You can cool iron it, apparently. Not that I iron my socks. But yeah, I decided to get this and I think it's lovely. So those will be some vanilla socks at some point. And I really liked the colourway, so I didn't want to miss out on it because there's a certain point where colourways do go out of stock and you can never get hold of them again. The other thing that I picked up this month is because when I went to Pomfest I picked up the Merchant & Mills Bag Station Right to Roam rucksack pattern, which is this, to make my own backpack rucksack. You can also make it into a shoulder bag, but I love backpacks and I wanted my own handmade one. I was thinking that I'd hopefully have this done for Yarndale too, but that's not going to happen. But I might be wearing this when I go to Nottingham Yarn Expo. Cross fingers, I'll have bought my fabric by then. However, this has been a little bit crumpled. Picked up a little treat from their online shop. When I bought the pattern online, I didn't from Pomfest, I didn't have enough money with me to buy all the essentials. I figured I could buy them later. I also got a little bit hung up on the fact that it's hard to know, even though it says what you need to buy, it's hard to make sure that you are buying the right things and the right amount of things. So when they said that they'd actually got the hardware kits going up in their online shop, it was when I weren't well with my throat infection a few weeks ago. I decided, ooh, I'm on a day off, I feel sorry for myself, let's have a look at that. So I treated myself and I bought myself, they had a nickel option, but I bought myself the brass hardware kit, and this is basically the magnetic snaps, buckles, cord, rivets, eyelets and leather straps that you need for the bag. And this cost around about 30 something pounds, I think it was 35 or 36 or something with the postage, and the postage is about £5, but the packaging came not only in these two bags, but it came in, it came in like a cardboard enclosed wrapping to keep it safe. It then came in this bag, and it then came in a sewn potato sack, which was really cool with my dress on. I found that really awesome, and I snipped it open and in was my lovely kit. So it is like the postage is a lot, but it's worth it because they do really highly high quality products, which is worth getting. So I picked up my hardware kit and I just now need my fabric. So I have seen my fabric on their website, which I will be buying in future. I just didn't have quite enough money to splurge out this month on all of that at once. So I'm really looking forward to this. I think I bought the last brass hardware kit as well, so that's good because I really wanted the brass one. I have spotted some of their, I think it's like a cotton, but it's not lined, it's treated on one side so it's actually water resistant, which I really like. So I'm going to get some of that, and it's like a burgundy, slightly cherry red colour. I think like the cherry red Doc Martens, that kind of colour. And I'm thinking of getting their lining cotton fabric, which is in a mustard, and I think that'd be really nice. So I think that's the colours that I'm going to go for that backpack, but we will see because it is subject to change. They also did do a kit that has all the hardware and the fabric together, but the fabric colour was just in a navy oilcloth, I believe, and I didn't want navy. I want something a little bit more me than navy. That's not all I purchased this month. I may seem to spend a lot on crafting products, and that's because that is what I love. So when you think, oh my god, she spent a ton on things this month, and I can't do that. I'm not rich by any means, but what I do have in pocket money, what I have left over for the month, I do treat myself pretty much with to craft things because that's what I like to do. We do go out occasionally for the occasional meal, or we have the occasional takeaway as a treat, but pretty much most of my money goes on my crafting because that's what I do and that's what I spend a lot of my time doing, and why not? So next up, I have to share with you a few patterns that I picked up. About a month ago now, Simplicity did a pattern sale where on their website the patterns were, I think, 50% off on the actual Simplicity website and on other websites, I believe. This pattern in particular, I bought these patterns and I not only got 50% off, but I also had an introductory 15% off, I think it was. So I got these like super cheap. I think I got all 3 patterns for about seven or 8 maybe pounds. It wasn't expensive, and postage on top, I think it came to about 10 or 11 quid. It was well worth it. So I picked up New Look 6394, which is this gorgeous shirt pattern. When I did my Wainthrope cardigan, I did a reinforced button band with buttonholes, which meant I finally got to work out how to do the buttonholes on my machine. Super easy, and decided that finally I could definitely dip my toes into making a shirt, and I love shirts. So I picked up this shirt pattern mainly because I like how vintagey it looks. I love vintage clothing. I wear vintage clothes when I go out or dress up. Sometimes I wear them on day to day. Depends what mood I'm in. If I'm in the mood to get dressed up and be at my best and not be lazy, then I do wear vintage things. Yesterday I wore my Wainthrope cardigan with my yellow tartan wiggle skirt that I made with the bow on the back, and I loved wearing that. Anyway, I really love this shirt, and I love the fact that there's a sleeveless version for the summer. I love the fact that there's longer versions and shorter versions and different length sleeves with turnovers, different styled sleeves. There is many options to this. I think there's even a collared version and no collar version, or a stand-up collar version, and I love it. So it's got a lot of variations, and I can see me making a lot of shirts from this. A lot of shirts. Thinking I might get some nice flannel for this, like plaided flannel, and make my own. Then I picked up this, which is a New Look 6511. I have a t-shirt that is a commercial store-bought t-shirt that has a peplum bottom like this, and I wear it a lot and I love it, and it's in like a slightly washed grey fabric, and I wear it quite a lot with my cardigans and my jeans and my little boots, and it looks smart but also casual. And so I was like, well, this could be a staple in my wardrobe. I could make quite a few of these in different fabrics and it'd look just as beautiful and amazing. It's nice if you're going out and you casually want to dress down but still have that going out feel and ladylike look. So I picked this up. There is this length, there is a more tunic length, which I think I could wear with leggings, which I quite like. They also have one that is a bit more of a tee with a slightly shorter peplum, smaller. And then they have one without the peplum. Yeah, and it's just more like a short t-shirt version, which is quite cute. If I have my yoke skirts, that might go really well with that. Anyway, they've got cap sleeves, some without sleeves. I just think I could wear this a lot in my wardrobe. So I picked up this as a t-shirt basic that I could get a lot of use out of. This one I'm a little bit apprehensive of. I bought it mainly because I'll share it with you. This is New Look 6509. Smart Options pattern, and I bought it for the romper suit. Mainly because of the fact that I really like romper suits, but when I try them on in shops, I don't have the correct figure they make them for. They make them for a very straight up and down figure. So even if you have, now I've got a straight figure, but I have hips that still, and a tummy that still stand out. So there isn't enough room in the hip area or tummy area to not disguise it, but make it look flattering. There needs to be a bit more fabric in that portion, shall we say. Like where the darts are, they don't need to be as in as probably what they should be. But with this, I could alter and make it fit me better. So I decided to pick this up. I also figured that I probably won't use the cut out version bodice. I will probably have the full bodice piece without the cutouts. I don't know how confident I'd be with the cutout sections, to be honest. But I really like that there's a shorts version for the summer, a longer version for autumn that I could wear with tights or winter, and I love that there's a pinafore version because I do like myself a pinafore, and in needle cord that would be super cute. So I picked up this because I think with a few tucks and tweaks I could make this my own. So I picked up that. So those are a few patterns that I essentially want to try and make over the coming months. I have spotted some fabric that I really want to make one of these. That's like a cream and brown gingham fabric, and I think it'd be really cute to wear with a cardigan and jeans. So I am going to pick that up at some point soon. However, that's all my intentions and plans that I have for future makes, I suppose. Yeah, and that's that. I have been reading books again. It's been about a month since I picked up my Miss Peregrine's School for Peculiar Children, and I'm getting through it. I think I'm on about page 200-ish. I have no idea where that story is really going to go. I feel like it's a good story and I'm enjoying it, but I don't see where it's going. Like, it's not exciting me because there's no... This is spoiler alert, but he basically ends up going to visit the school that is actually just a bombed down wreck, and finds out that the school is actually in a loop, in another world, basically, that he can visit. He's visited, he's met the children, he's met Miss Peregrine, and he's gone back and forwards, and nothing really that much is happening. You're getting to know who the children are and what they can do, but there is no hint to what's the story's not being taken any real place to me at the minute. Feels like it's just stalling. So I've gotten kind of to a point where it's like a bit, I feel like I'm just reading it for the sake of it. I'm sure it will pick up, but I'm having a little bit of a timeout. A timeout because I recently watched the Volunteer podcast with Kristen. Hi Kristen! And she recommended this book very highly. She recommended it as a fantasy fairy kind of tale. Not a fairy tale, but a tale about fairies. Um, and she mentioned that it's also a bit of a romance that comes off of a kind of tortured, bit of a, I don't know, like a sad story. Kind of comes off of the back of a story where she's being punished and brought into another kingdom, and she falls in love with the person that imprisoned her, I think. I'm not very far through. I'm only on page 51. You can see where I am. My bookmark is a pom-pom postcard. But I am reading A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. I noticed that a few people have been recently reading this, and it is super good so far. I am really enjoying it. I know I'm only on page 50, but I have been picking this up and putting it down and picking it up and putting it down over the past couple of days. And I definitely want to read the next two of this series. She also did another series, I think it was Throne of Glass, this series, which apparently is really good, but this one is currently ongoing, and over the next 3 years they have plans for another 3 books each year to be released. So I'm hoping to catch up with this so that I can actually get the book when it comes out, because I find that quite exciting when you go into a bookstore and you're like, oh my god, that book's come out, and you want to buy it instantly. I don't have that with books very often because usually I'm behind and I'm catching up. Anyway, I'm reading this and I'm loving it. I recommend that anybody who likes a fantasy kind of story with a female kind of lead, who likes a romance. I don't know if it'll be a tragic romance, but who likes a romance story, this might be for you. And that's pretty much it. So maybe I should talk a little bit about life things. This is going to be a long podcast, and I do apologise, but hopefully you'll enjoy it. Life things. So since the last time you saw me, I had I went away. We went to a Retro Rides gathering, which is a gathering of like-minded people who have old retro cars. We've been pretty much most years over the past 5 years. I think we've only had 1 year where we didn't go because we couldn't, our car was not well. Our car at the minute though we are not using because we're trying to sell our old vintage 1980s car. We're not enjoying restoring her anymore, so we have a 1990s BMW, and we didn't show our car this year, but we went because a lot of the people that do show their cars are our friends, and we see them every year, and they all come from different areas of the country, and it's the one time of the year where we are all together. Kind of a bit like knitting shows. So I go with my partner, and I tend to take my knitting and sit and knit for the weekend, drink and eat and enjoy others' company, which is really nice. We had a lovely weekend. It was rainy the first night that we were there. We got our tent up while it was dry, and the following 2 days were lovely and sunny and bright with no rain whatsoever. It was a great weekend. Really nice travel up and down there. But we got back on the Sunday, and the following Monday I started to have a little bit of a sore throat on the morning. It subsided a little bit through the day and then came back to haunt me on the evening, and it was not pleasant. I was having trouble swallowing a little, it was really sore. And then the following morning, my partner couldn't sleep through the night because I was apparently atrociously snoring, super bad. He slept in the living room because obviously I didn't know and I weren't well. But I woke up to being surprisingly unwell the following morning on the Tuesday. My uvula at the back of my throat had swollen. It was like really swollen. The back of my throat was quite red, but my uvula had gone kind of see-through. It was like swollen, and it just didn't look right. And I couldn't talk properly. The first few hours of the morning, I was talking like this because my uvula was stuck to the back of my tongue. It was that swollen. So I went to the doctors. I managed to book it in as a day appointment, and I got in because they have day appointments. If you ring up early enough, you can get one of those. And I rung up straight away, cancelled my work for the day, went straight to the doctors, and had an examination to find out I'd got a throat infection, which may have been from the damp and moisture at camping, and then the humidity while camping may have given me a infection, or maybe somebody had a throat infection and I'd had some of their germs somehow. I don't know. It's weird. I didn't drink from anybody else's cups or anything like that, so I can't imagine how I managed to get it, other than it was just a bacterial thing that flared up. So I ended up with a throat infection. They gave me antibiotics, told me to obviously drink plenty while I was on the antibiotics and to eat with them. They were quite strong ones, so they told me to start taking them and to have a couple of days, like 48 hours, to let them set in. 48 hours of like rest. So I stayed at home for 2 days, which I was kind of thankful for, because the antibiotics for those first 2 days were giving me really quite bad stomach cramps, quite painful. So I just chilled out for 2 days with my knitting, taking ibuprofen because that seemed to settle it a little bit, took the edge off the scratchiness and the swelling down a little, enough for me to be able to eat and drink quite happily, which was good. Took the scratchiness off the throat a little bit, enough for me to be able to eat quite generally normal. And yeah, the antibiotics did really good, and I am well again. And then the following weekend, I didn't podcast that weekend, the following weekend after that, we then had, through the week I'd been smelling some burning plastic. This is not a good story, by the way. I'd been smelling burning plastic in the landing outside of our flat on the stairwell. There's about 5 flats in this building. It's an old Victorian building, and basically I didn't know where this smell was coming from. I assumed that maybe somebody had been doing something, like with a soldering iron, maybe burning some kind of army men. I don't know, you know, like the plastic toy army men. Maybe a child was doing something. I don't know, but the burning smell was coming from somewhere, and it was lingering in just a small section of the hall. I can't figure out where it was. We have had a problem for a long while with our shower tripping out on us. It's really frustrating. It's been going on for quite a long time. We've had the trip switch box changed because that was fairly old, and I think they found a fault with it, so they changed it a couple of years ago. But it still kept tripping out, and I still kept telling my landlord again and again and again, and it came to that weekend, and it tripped out while I was in the shower. Managed to finish my shower, thankfully, but it's never nice when your water goes cold on you, as you can imagine, and this happens to us fairly a lot. Anyway, that had happened that evening, and then the following day my partner went down to flick on the shower again via the switch, and then realised, looking up just above the switch, a section of the panel that the switch is on was gloopy and melted out of the box, like it was melting away from the actual box panel itself. And that was where the melting plastic smell was coming from. So we did not use our shower. My partner told the landlord straight away, and obviously he was like, oh, whoa, that is not good. And we were like, no, it isn't. You could have caused a fire. Why are you not getting it checked? So, lo and behold, electrician came out, had a look, and two of the cables within the trip switch box itself that are connected together with something, one of them had a loose connection. And so, because of this loose connection, it was getting hot, which meant that it was tripping the box out. A really good explanation. You could see that it was burnt, you could see that it was melty, and changed our trip box. The only thing is, when I use the shower a lot, for a long period of time, like last weekend I used it to clean our shower, because I've got a new turbo scrub shower cleaning equipment, which is amazing. Our shower still trips out, but it's because I've used it a lot. It shouldn't still do that, surely. So I have mentioned this to the landlord again. He said that he'd get in touch with the electrician, and this week I checked again, he still hasn't. So I said I'm going to keep on your case until you do, because I am not happy. There is something still wrong for it to be doing that. Like maybe something's not giving enough power to the shower. Maybe the wires aren't powerful enough. I don't know. There's something not right there. Anyway, I don't want another fire, which could have happened. So yeah, we are getting there. But thankfully, when we have a normal regular shower of like 10 minutes, it isn't flicking out. So, oh my god, I can actually get a normal shower at last. It's only with prolonged use or prolonged switching on and off to rinse that it seems to trip it out. Anyway, so that was one fiasco, which is why I couldn't record that weekend, because I was waiting for the electrician, who then came the following day. So I waited all day one of the Saturdays, barely doing anything, because I was expecting him to turn up. It wasn't a very exciting Saturday, it was quite frustrating. He came early on the Sunday the following day, so that was another day kind of half wasted. But yeah, we just spent the rest of the day in and just relaxing. Nothing crazy happened. And then last weekend I just weren't feeling in the mood to podcast. There was just something about me that just didn't feel like I was in the mood to talk to people or to be excited. Just weren't in a very energetic place. So I went out and met my mum for the weekend and had a really great day. Having a little shop around, and I'm planning to do that this afternoon. So basically I need to end this podcast real soon so I can go and get ready to go and meet her. So yeah, finally after about 3-4 weeks I've managed to podcast again. So I'm hoping that nothing happens drastically in the foreseeable next couple of weeks so I can podcast again soon. But that is basically my week, last few weeks, in a little quick rundown and lowdown of it all. I won't share anymore because this is probably an hour and 45 minutes podcast or something mental, and I'm gonna have to edit it. God. Anyway, I hope you all have a lovely weekend, and I thank you all for spending time with me, for joining me in my knit-alongs, and for coming over and chatting on the Ravelry Killtocraft podcast group. I hope you all have a fantastic time. Get out your knitting, sewing, spinning, and get crafting, people. It's what weekends are for. And I'll love you and leave you. Bye!